All right, Edie, it's one of my favorite topics. Influencers come sometimes literally in a moment, sometimes they come in a lifetime and everything in between. And when I speak, I talk a lot my grandfather, my grandmother, my mom, my aunt came from Kiev and Ukraine. They immigrated to Canada years and years ago. And he used to take me for walks in the park when I was about 5 in Montreal. And one day he talked to everybody. So one day I asked him, I called him Zeta, how do you know all these people? And I remember him saying, "Well, look at this guy coming up here, a friend of mine." One day I smiled at him and he looked up and smiled at me and he came over and started talking and we have a friendship and we do stuff together. And at the same time, another person saw us smiling and laughing and came over to us. And I remember my 5-year-old brain, which some of my friends say is still there, but that's another conversation, is my 5-year-old brain said, well, life's going to be easy. I just need to smile at people. I actually thought that and it stuck. And then you start getting older and you make things more complicated, but then you start getting wiser and you realize it is just about the smile sometimes that does enough. So with that said, I know we've all had many. Can you share 2 to 3 people that have been influential in your life?
Sure. Well, without a doubt, both my mother and father were the two most influential people in my life for so many reasons. And it's funny what you say about a smile. So, absolutely positively, they were my best friends my whole life. I miss them every single day of my life. And even to this day, my siblings are my best friends, my husband, my son. As I said, it's all about family. But your comment about a smile. So, I have a very eclectic background. I'm half Italian, half Austrian. And my mother was actually born in Italy and moved to America. And she always used to say, all you have to do in life is smile. And that was like one of her expressions, right? So I own a home in Tuscany for 12 years and love Italy. And I love everywhere in the world I go, but Italy is always special in my heart. And believe it or not, not because my mother was born there. I just traveled the world and I love it there. So, and I always said I was going to own a home there. I looked for 11 years, owned for 12, blah, blah, blah. So everybody asked me, oh, do you speak fluent Italian? Because surely, how do you get by in Italy all those years? And I said, oh, I do speak fluent Italian. Gucci, Armani, gelato, pizza, pasta, vino, amore, and a smile. And it never gave me a problem. And literally, I'm not fluent in Italian. My son yells at me all the time. You should be by now. Do babble and do lingo. But it's terrible. A smile caused me not to have to ever just smile and people help you. And it's amazing. You attract more flies with honey than vinegar, right? So a smile goes a long way. And so I love your grandfather saying that. And it's true. And it spreads. It just spreads. So I would say the two biggest people who influenced me absolutely in my life were my parents. And being a girl and one of three girls in a family of five with two brothers, being a girl, when I was little, I will tell you an interesting story. My mother always loved fashion. I mean, she has these beautiful clothes that my nieces should be on Sex in the City and Emily and
So you were sharing about your mom and your dad being a major influencers and how important a smile was. You want to continue on that?
Sure. Well, the other important thing, now keep in mind my generation, I always say age is only a number. So now that I'm 32 for the second time, you can do the math and but I feel 18 for the first time. So I have great joie de vivre for life. But in any case, when I was 6 years old, I remember coming home from first grade. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, so she'd drive us to school, pick us up. And I was in first grade, and the teacher went around the whole classroom asking, what do you want to be when you grow up? So back to what I was saying earlier, and I said, I want to be a lawyer. And the lady teacher that I had, it's the most important job in the world, and they can be a great influence on kids or not so great influence,
Right.
right? And so she said, well, you can't be a lawyer, but girls can't be lawyers. So this is what she said circa 1966, 67, whatever. So I was so perplexed. And when my mother picked me up, I said, she's like, how was school today? What happened in school today? And I said, well, the teacher went around asking us, what do we want to be when we grow up? And I said, I wanted to be a lawyer. And she said, girls can't be a lawyer. And up to that point in my life, I was never told girls can't do certain things, boys can't do certain things, blah, blah, blah. I was raised, as I said earlier, one of five kids, three girls and two boys. And by the way, I always say no chairman ever hired me because of my gender. I was always
Right.
hired because they thought I was the best person for the job.
And that's
But
the
I
only way you want to
remember,
be hired.
of course, and it's the only way you want to hire somebody as a
Right.
team member for your organization. So my mother said, "Your teachers are great, but teachers can be wrong." And she told me as a 6-year-old girl, and that teacher was wrong. And tomorrow, when I take you to school, we're going to go in and we're going to speak to the principal and the teacher together. And you're going to see that when people are wrong, how you have to be nice, but you have to correct them. So you can, in fact, be anything you want to be in life. And, she raised five successful children. So there you go. So the next day we went to school and she went to, well, with her, she takes me to the principal's office, says to the principal, "I want to speak to our teacher with you." And she said, "Yesterday you told my daughter when you asked the class that she couldn't be a lawyer because girls can't be lawyers. And that is not true. Girls can be anything they want to be." So it's a long-winded way to explain that was a very impactful moment for me in my life. I was never raised with anything negative, like you can't do it. You can do anything you want to do if you get a great education, work hard, and try to always do the right thing. So those were impactful things that stay with me to this day. And listen, I have like 13 nephews, three or four nieces, and I tell them all, doesn't matter your gender, you can be anything you want to be in life. But when I was coming up, girls did have to work a little harder. It wasn't so easy. You had to dress, very conservatively and all of
Oh,
that.
sure.
And now I just wear whatever dress I like. I don't care if it's conservative or not.
Well,
But
back,
it was a different time. And all I'm saying is that everybody should know they can be whatever they want to be, and it should be totally irrelevant. You shouldn't have to have these sort of DEI rules. It should just be
right.
be everybody treated fairly.
What,
Unfortunately, it doesn't always go that way. And I do feel sorry for the generations before me. Women had it much rougher. We've paved the way and we're trying to make it easier, but it is still a topic of conversation, sadly, that we even have to discuss it. And I will just say, as a side note, I'm a member of a lot of these women's groups and I speak at a lot of different things. And I say, but you're missing the ball here. It shouldn't be women's groups. First of all, there are still the majority of men in leadership roles. We need them. So let's try to join together and all help each other. But it is
well,
still a challenge.
yeah. So, well, the only thing I would say is we use an expression also clear is kind. And the clearer you are with people, the kinder you are. And I think there was probably some mutual influencing there with the principal saw what was going on. If the teacher was smart, she was influenced also in a positive way, maybe not to do that anymore. And you learned from your mom that you can be clear and that is the kindest thing you can be if you do it properly.
Yes, and by the way, the principal was a man. I still can see him, very tall, balding, thin man with glasses. And the teacher was probably a 30-year-old young woman, right? And
Right.
it was not another lesson in life, these little Edieisms that come from collaborating and collections of other people. I didn't make them up. I just inherit them because I like them. And one is, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And my mother was very nice
Right.
in the way she delivered the message, but she was very stern and clear that you will never tell one of my kids, especially my daughters, that they can't do anything
Well,
they want.
again, clear is kind and all the time. And it teaches us that we're also influencing people all the time. And sometimes we don't even know it. So it's our choice to be kind, to be positive or not. And it seems to be a no-brainer which choice. So thanks for sharing all that. It's amazing and it's brilliant stuff.
My pleasure. Thank you again for having me.